হ্যালো, সবাইকে আরেকবার স্বাগতম জানাচ্ছি আমার চ্যানেলে। আজকে যে পোয়েমটি নিয়ে আলোচনা করব সেই পোয়েমটির নাম অ্যান এলিমেন্টারি স্কুল ক্লাসরুম ইন স্লাম, অ্যান্ড দিস পোয়েম ইজ রিটেন বাই আ পোয়েট কল্ড স্টিফেন স্পেন্ডার। বেশি সময় না নিয়ে সরাসরি পোয়েমে চলে আসি, বিকজ এই কবিতাটি পড়াতে গেলে অনেক কিছু বলার রয়েছে। কবিতাটির মধ্যে এর অনেক ইন্টারপ্রিটেশন রয়েছে, যেগুলো বলতে গেলে অনেকটাই সময় লাগে. So, before I begin the poem, I think I should speak subtle words for the poet Stephen Spender. Stephen Spender was basically a 20th century poet and an essayist, obviously. And he took a keen interest in politics, and he declared himself to be a socialist and pacifist. This particular poem is a reflection of the pathetic condition of the slum children, and through this poem Spender is trying to hammer the preconceived notion of the society, and he is trying to subvert the hierarchy of the society. And as we will be finishing with this poem, we will discover that this poem is basically a kind of protest that Stephen Spender is doing on behalf of the slum children who are suffering from the perpetual state of poverty. Now let's begin the poem. First stanza. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So this was the first stanza, and if I'm going to explain each and every single line, the video is going to be so long that I don't think it can be uploaded on YouTube. So what I'm actually doing over here, I'm actually giving a summary of the entire stanza. So I think the texts are there with you. So in the first stanza, what Spender is basically doing, he is vividly portraying the pathetic conditions of children in a slum school. The children studying in a class of slum area are far away from a world abounding in nature's bounties and lighter aspects of life. The world of these slum children is instead full of squalor and harsh realities. These children have a pathetic look. They have pale faces, and their hair is unkempt, falling all over their faces, making them look like rootless weeds. Then Spender is talking about the classroom. In that classroom, there is a tall girl who has put her head down. She is very depressed, obviously, because there is no rays of hope in her life. She is depressed because she is considering herself as an abject poverty or she is suffering from family tussles. The boy who is sitting in the corner is reed thin. He is as thin as like a paper. He has big bulging eyes like that of a rat. And here Spender is actually using a very beautiful metaphor, and this metaphor suggests his timid nature and search for food and security. So the way a rat is always very timid and it keeps on searching for food and security, the boy that Spender is describing over here is also very timid And this timidity comes from rejection. The boy knows that he belongs to the lower strata of society and he is always already rejected by the center. And this poem is a very beautiful example of the conflict between center and margin. The boy we are talking about is another boy who is the heir of his father's gnarled disease. He has a stunted growth and is sitting there at his desk with his twisted bones. He is a living example of his father's naughty disease, a disease that will never be cured. Obviously, there is no enthusiasm in him. Another character is a sweet-natured boy who is sitting at the back of that dingy classroom. He is not a prominent character. He is sitting there and dreaming of squirrel games. So basically, the boy doesn't want to be in this classroom because this classroom is like a cage to him. He's dreaming, he's constantly dreaming of going out and playing with his friends. He would prefer to be out of his classroom in the open. So this was the overall summary of the first stanza. কারণ প্রত্যেকটি লাইন যদি ডিটেলে বলতে যাই তাহলে এতটা সময় লাগবে যেটা হয়তো ইউটিউব ভিডিওর পক্ষে অ্যাপ্রোপ্রিয়েট হবে না. So now it comes the second stanza. Let me read it first, then I'll be explaining the summary. Second stanza. On sour cream walls, donations. Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn. Civilized dome riding all cities. Belled, flowery, troyless valley. Open-handed map, averting the world its world. And yet, for these children, these windows, not this map, their world were all their futures painted with a fog. This fog is a very beautiful metaphor of uncertainty. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. So this was the second stanza, and now let me summarize the second stanza. So in this stanza, Spender is describing the dull and monotonous atmosphere that the children face every day. The walls of the dingy classroom are dirty yellow. Painted long ago, they don't seem to motivate and engross the students. In the corner, William Shakespeare's portrait has been stuck. And this one is very ironic because the children are so caught up in the rut of life that all this is meaningless. So basically, William Shakespeare is meaningless to them. Early in the morning, the sky is clear and cloudless. The domes of institutions glimmer in every city. But these pictures have no significance for these children who have not seen anything except the dingy slums. So the eyes of these children are acclimatized to this dinginess, to this lead sky. There is also a picture of a beautiful valley adorned with fragrant flowers. However, the children can never, ever experience this fascinating light as they are condemned to live a life devoid of all joys and jubilation. So the children know it very well that the way William Shakespeare is meaningless to them, this map, this geographical map that is displaying the names of several other countries is also meaningless because they can never visit to this world. They will be rotting in the slum areas. That is why the map in the classroom should offer limitless opportunities to the students, but unfortunately it fails to do so. So the map, that geographical map I'm talking about, or rather Stephen Spender is talking about, is meaningless to them as well, because they know they can never go these places. Their world outside is grim, uncertain, and full of trials and tribulations. Stephen Spender conveys a dismal view of their world by using the metaphor of fog, as I told while I was reading the poem. Just as fog in the winters blurs one view, the slum children's future is blurred with hopelessness, indignity, and hunger. Their future is in the shackles of narrow, dusty streets and sealed with a dark and dull sky. These children are far away from the dreamy world of gurgling rivers, snow-covered mountains, and luminous stars, because they know that all these are mere dreams to them. This slum area is their final destination. They are supposed to be rotting over here, and they are supposed to be fighting with perpetual state of poverty. So this was the summary of the second stanza, and here comes the third stanza. Surely Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes, from fog to endless night. On their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel, with mended glass like bottle bits on stones. All of their time and space are foggy slum, so blot their maps with slums as big as doom. That was the third stanza, and let me now quickly give a short summary on this third stanza. I'm again repeating that this poem is so meaningful that I should have been talking about each and every single line, but each and every single line, if I'm going to explain each and every single line, I think the entire video will consume 1 long hour, and that is a mammoth size to sort of upload on YouTube. So that is why I have nothing to do except giving short summaries. So that was the third stanza, and let me now talk about the summary of this particular stanza. So the poet says, the dull and monotonous routine fails to attract these children. And Shakespeare doesn't mean anything to them, nor does the map on the wall, which shows them the world, for their world is merely their classroom. So the children know it very well that their world is restricted, limited within these 4 walls of their classroom. So everything the teacher is speaking or the teachers are speaking absolutely are meaningless to them. Rather, the beautiful world with all its allurements, such as the warm sun, beautiful ships, only tempt the children to run away from their miserable surroundings and cramped lives. Their houses are small, almost like narrow holes. There is no end to their miserable life, which begins with fog and ends with the same. The poet is appalled at the fact that there is no redeemer there. Nobody is going to come to change their state. Nobody is going to pay any attention to them, because that is the basic conflict between the center and the margin. And these children, they belong to the margin, and they can never come to the center. And mind you, a state is always defined, a political system is always defined by the people who are there in the very center of the society. The poet is appalled at the fact, I'm repeating this line, that there is no redeemer here. They live in these dreary places from birth to death. They spend their childhood in garbage heaps. Some of the children living in these areas are very skinny and have their bones peeping out of their skins. So obviously they suffer from malnutrition. This is an imagery of malnutrition. They use steel spectacles, the glasses of which are cracked and look like broken piece of bottle or stone. It is their lot to use the discarded things of the rich. It seems they are living in a perpetual state of gloom and despair. These children are destined to spend all their life in these living hells. These slums are a blot on the civilized world, the world of the privileged. The worst thing is that these children are unable to locate their slums on the map. Fourth stanza and the final one. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut open their lives like catacombs break, oh break open till they break the till they break the town, and show the children to green fields, and make their world run azure on gold sands, and let their tongues run naked into books. The white and green leaves open, history theirs whose language is the sun. The most important line and the last line of the poem. Let me repeat this line once more. History theirs whose language is the sun. Now, let me talk about the summary. These deplorable conditions, the poet says, Stephen Spender says that these deplorable conditions will continue for these children unless governors, inspectors, and visitors take keen interest to bridge this chasm. The map hanging in their classroom becomes their window to the world because it is only through it that they can see the world which is so different from their slums. The windows of their classroom just confine them to their melancholic world. It seems that the lives of these children of a lesser god are sealed in the cemeteries of filthy slums. In this particular stanza, what Spender is doing, as I said at the very beginning of the poem when I was talking about Stephen Spender, he is actually appealing to the educated and the bourgeoisie, the capitalists or haves in our society, to do something so that the state or the condition of these children can be changed. And this stanza is a very good example of Marxist ideology. As Spender is saying, Spender is appealing to alleviate the miseries of the children who belong to the slums. Spender earnestly wants that the children should be free to stroll in the green fields and run on the golden sands without any worldly worries. Childhood should be innocent and carefree. The poet desires it to be so for the children of the slums. They should have access to education. They should be allowed to read books and be given countless opportunities to explore the world. They need to break free from the confines of their bleak world into a world which should welcome them with open arms. The poet exhorts that the unfeeling, self-centered attitude of the affluent classes ought to be broken to relieve the children of all misery, because, I'm quoting the last line, history theirs whose language is the sun. So the children need to break free from the confines of their bleak world into a world which should welcome them with open arms. So this is how the poem ends. Again, I'm sorry that I couldn't sort of explain each and every single line, each and every single imagery over here, because that is a time consuming effort, but all I could do was to give a short summary, and that's what I have sort of given in this particular audio file. Hopefully this discussion will help you, and hopefully we will spend your time to sort of listen to this, whatever I say, podcast or mp3 file or whatever you can say it. So thank you for spending your time, and please share your opinions. Goodbye.